Hey everybody, I'm Dwayne Spike Booker, previous F15E Strike Eagle pilot. Been flying total for about 16 years since I started, and now I'm a lead speaker. My journey to become a fighter pilot. So I wasn't really the one that knew from the beginning that I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Of course, I watched the Top Gun movie and I loved it. And that got me into airplanes and all the other type of stuff. But I didn't have like uncles and stuff like that that were fighter pilots. Actually, I was the first officer in my family, let alone the first pilot. So, some self-doubt, thinking whether I could even do it or not. And it wasn't until I walked into the Air Force ROTC detachment and kind of introduced myself and told them that I was thinking about being a pilot. They asked me questions and then told me that I was actually exactly what the Air Force was looking for. So then, making the transition from kind of doubting whether or not I can do it to someone telling me that I could do it was all I needed to create a plan and get after it. So then my first solo, I remember the moment that stands out in my mind was the first time I flew the F15E without an instructor. I remember I go out, I do the stuff that we had been training, and I'm flying back over the water, looking at the beach, and that's kind of the first serene moment I have. And I'm sitting on the nose of this fighter jet, and I'm 20 something years old, and I look behind me and I remember seeing this big wing and these huge tails and the missiles hanging off of the pylons, and that was kind of the moment where I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's me flying this thing, I'm doing this. That was my first I got this moment. So actually, I've got a pretty good story. I was in training, flight school at Columbus Air Force Base, and it was a day that I wasn't really feeling well. I wasn't on the schedule to fly, didn't really eat much, didn't sleep well, and weather rolled in, the schedule's kind of changing, and they threw me into a flight. Um, of course, I'm in training, I want to get it done, I want to graduate. So I go fly, knowing that I didn't feel well, knowing that I didn't eat, and I G-locked. I actually G-locked. I had an instructor in the back seat, thank God. But it was like 2 or 3 seconds. I was out and woke back up, and I hear him kind of asking, are you okay? What's going on? So then we kind of knock it off. We go back to base, and from that point on, I thought that was it. I thought the perception was going to be that I couldn't hack high G aircraft, that I couldn't continue on in training. I thought that they were going to try to find me another job to do, even though it had been my dream to be a pilot. I had already kind of sold myself short in my own mind. They hadn't told me anything, but I just mentally went down the rabbit hole of, this is it for me, I guess. And it took a lot. It took a lot of the people that I love kind of getting around me and telling me, hey, no, it's okay, you got it. And then finally, when I started interacting with leadership, they basically came up with a plan to make sure that I know what my limits are, go back to the centrifuge, go back through G training. And I think on the backside of that, that was very significant for me, because not only did I learn my own boundaries, but I also learned that sometimes I can be my own worst enemy. Nobody told me that I wasn't going to make it. I basically told myself that, and I discounted myself. So overcoming that hurdle was a pretty difficult one too, but a lot of lessons learned from that. My favorite part about being a fighter pilot is the challenge. It was clearly the hardest thing I've ever done, but being able to get over that hurdle for me mentally really put me in this mind frame of I can accomplish anything, especially with the tools and techniques that I did learn. And then the travel. So being in the military alone, getting to fly this fighter, go all around the world with awesome people, really just woke up the adventurer inside of me. So now I really love going different places, eating different food, experiencing new cultures, listening to different music, the travel, I think, and just doing hard, cool stuff was what drove me. My favorite part about Afterburner is getting to go and meet all of these people that do all these different jobs. And then also taking what I learned in the military, specifically as a fighter pilot, and applying it to each and every one of what they do, which is pretty awesome. So changing their mindset to get inside of what does it take to be a fighter pilot is pretty awesome. To see that transformation is one of the things I loved as an instructor. When you get that student and then they have that aha moment and it clicks, the light bulb comes on. You know, I get that same feeling with these people that I'm talking to when we're talking about the mindset of a fighter pilot and how they can utilize that. I see the light bulb come on and they're like, yeah, you know, we can plan, brief, execute, debrief, and that will work just fine for what we do in our day-to-day process. And I always think it's super cool that when I'm done with a keynote or an Afterburner day, that you get a standing ovation. People stand and they applaud. And I'm not really doing anything exceptional. I'm just talking about my life. So the fact that it resonates on that level is pretty awesome. So mine's a little different. I didn't actually visit, but Cyprus. So I was flying over the Med, and I am just fascinated with the history of Mediterranean islands. And I've always said, I was actually on my way to a deployment location, and I looked down and saw it and said, you know what, when I get the chance, I'm gonna go back and tour some of those islands, because not only did the water look amazing, but again, the history of the entire area is pretty cool. My favorite movie is Interstellar, partially because I'm a physics major, and that movie was really about relativity, so it hit me on a different level. But you know, Matthew McConaughey is a good actor, and even though it was, you know, 3 hours long or so, I can always sit down and watch it whenever it's playing on TV. I tell you what, so playing in my cockpit is probably going to be some old Outkast. I'm an Outkast fan. I'm from Atlanta, so Atlanta music through and through. But also, I do like a lot of different genres, and typically you can tell what my mood is based on the genre that I'm listening to. So, but right now, if you hopped in my cockpit, we'd probably be listening to some Outkast. Okay, the funniest call sign. The funniest call sign I've ever heard, I can't say in public. Over my career, I do admit that the fighter pilot has kind of changed. So we kind of gotten away from some of those. Now we have the bar test, if you will. If you can't say it in public at a bar, then probably shouldn't name somebody that. But yeah.